Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Walker, and I run the media team here at Care Washington. And I'm here with two of my colleagues to talk about a really important civil right for immigrants here in Washington State. Angelique, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, my name is Angelique Rodriguez. I'm the policy assistant here at Care Washington, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks, Angelique. And Rayyan, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, I'm Rayyan. I'm the media intern here at CareWa, and I'm also really excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, let's dive right in. Angelique, can you give us an overview of why we're here and what we're talking about?
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about immigration as a protected class, which is specific to Washington State. Essentially, a little bit about what that means. So in Washington State, that means that you cannot discriminate based on someone's immigration status. That could mean if someone's here on a visa, or that could also mean that someone's here undocumented. Uh, and there's only certain instances where that is legally permissible, but that would be stated like in Washington by the government. So that would mean certain examples of that would mean like government funded programs, certain employment programs that are federally funded, or certain housing programs that are federally funded would be like the only sort of exceptions. But besides that, it basically means that in Washington State immigration, someone's immigration status is kind of protected as a class, and that means that that person or people cannot be discriminated against.
Awesome. Thank you. And Rayyan, could you just quickly talk about what discrimination means, like a definition of that? And also, Angelique touched on this briefly, but can you talk a little bit more about what a protected class is?
Yes, totally. So, discrimination is when a person is treated differently than someone else based on their groups, classes, and or categories that they belong to, without like legal justification to do so. That's kind of like immigration, for example. If it's not required by law, if someone treats you differently because you're an immigrated person, then that is discrimination. And a protected class is, in the US, there are things about a person that are protected, meaning that they can't be discriminated against, like sex, age, religion, all those things. However, they are different for different states, different cities.
This new policy is fairly new in Washington, is my understanding. Do you have a sense of like the history behind this? Can you tell us how we got here?
So just a little history on it. It was introduced for the first time January 15th, 2019 as a Senate bill, specifically Senate Bill 5165 by Senator Saldaña. She represents the 37th legislative district. And then March 18th, 2020, it was signed into law by Governor Jay Inslee. And then it became effective on June 11th, 2020. And some organizations that helped push for this was Washington Community Action Network, ACLU of Washington, and One America. So yeah, that's a little history on it.
Cool. I did not know those dates. That's pretty exciting. So it's been around for almost 3 years now. And this sounds like it's a really good example of like when legislative policy making works for us to add a new, like really important anti-discrimination piece of policy in place. And I know that right now it's a legislative session in Washington. What would you say to people who want to get involved to pass good legislation like this?
Yeah, so I would say definitely do it. And three main things is first, number one is it's easy to get intimidated by going and talking to representatives and all the jargon that's kind of thrown around and the fancy suits and everything. I can speak to that from my own experience. I've definitely been intimidated by that before, and I still get nervous whenever I do it. But I would say that something to keep in mind is that these representatives, they work for you. It's their job to hear what you have to say, and you definitely have something to say. And then number two, I would say, is that law and policy, I definitely would argue, impact, intimately impact every aspect of our lives, from small things that we don't really even consider, like, for example, getting your coffee this morning, all the things that went into putting the coffee beans here and then having an exchange between you and the barista, to more bigger things and things that we tend to possibly see more is like prisons, deportation. Those are like pretty extreme forms of like the state's power, exercises of the state's power. So like things like the way policies and laws have impacted the socioeconomic makeup of our communities and the unequal access to public goods. I could go on and on, but the point to take away from that is that laws and policies impact our lives intimately in so many ways, on smaller levels that we don't always necessarily think about, to much bigger levels. And so if you're in the United States, if you're in Washington State, whether or not you have like a citizenship or some sort of immigration status, or whether you don't have status at all and you're undocumented, all of those, like, you live in the United States and you are impacted by the laws, and for that reason, like, you have a story. So something to take away is just that know that you have a story to tell about the way laws and policies have shaped your life, and don't be intimidated by the idea of talking to representatives. Although it's very easy to be intimidated. Know that you have something to say, and it's their job to hear what you have to say. And lastly, MDAC is coming up, so those days are March 1st. That is online, and day of action is March 20th, which is in person. Come support, come talk to representatives, tell them what your story, make them listen to you respectfully, of course, but like, yeah, get involved and know that you have something to say. So
Thanks, Angelique. That was really powerful. I really identify with that, getting intimidated by the legislature. And I love your point about like both how laws affect every little part of our lives, and that our representatives, like, their job is to hear from everyone, not just certain people, but like literally everyone they represent. That's really cool. I wanted to see, Rayyan, if you had anything to add to that conversation.
No, yeah, I think you covered it all. I also really enjoyed how you talked about that, like the legislation, or like the people who are on legislation are here for us and they care about what we have to say. Really, it's very true.
Rayyan, now that the folks watching this video and listening know that it's illegal to discriminate against somebody in Washington state based on immigration status, if anyone listening or someone they know thinks that they have experienced this type of discrimination, what steps should they take?
Some of the main places that you can look to or like report a violation to, one is us at Care Washington. You can always contact us to make sure that you actually have been discriminated against and your protected class has been violated. Another place that you can report a violation to is the U.S. Department of Justice. If you go onto the website, you can easily report a violation through, I think, a form. And then another main way to report is through the Equal Employment Opportunity. Also, if you just go onto the website, you can easily report a violation.
To Rayyan, again, we're kind of wrapping up here. In your opinion, why is it important that we have a law like this that like clearly spells out that immigration status can't be used to discriminate against people.
Yeah. So nowadays, I feel like a lot of immigration or a lot of immigrants are coming to the US to find bigger and better opportunities. So it's important that they have rights protecting them when they do come here. Having rights as an immigrant makes it so that they can get a proper job, proper housing, they have access to healthcare, and so many more. But a lot of people come to the US to find a better place to live and potentially raise a family or get a job that's better than where they were before. And having those rights in having those protected classes is really important in giving them the opportunity to get that job or get that house and all that stuff like that. And it's nice to know that you have. It's important to know that you have rights grounding you, so that if you do feel violated against, you have somewhere to go and you have people to help you.
Beautifully put. Angelique, same question. Why is a law like this so important?
So I think Rayyan, you said really good stuff. So I just want to second that. And I guess like two things I just want to highlight is the main thing first and foremost is that this is important because it has real impacts. Discrimination can in practice like mean the difference between someone being able to get that apartment that they really needed for their family, or it can mean the difference between like feeling able to more empowered or in a better position, more like in a better position to speak up when your employer is like discriminating against you or not treating you fairly. It puts you, I guess, just in a more fair position to like exercise your basic rights, basically. Or I guess I'm going on and on, but my point is, it can mean the difference between like meeting basic needs, and it can also mean the difference between exercising your basic rights in a variety of different situations, be it housing, be it employment, being a lot of things. So it has real impacts. And then second, I think I would highlight is in the United States, I think we tend to we, meaning the United States, we tend to like pride ourselves on somewhat being kind of a land of immigrants, or we also tend to state that like we provide equal protections under the law for anyone in the United States, like the territory of the United States. Specifically, I'm thinking of the case Pryor v. Doe, I think 1982 case, in which it basically said that the equal protection, basically equal protection under the law was like extended to anyone within the territory of the United States. But I would argue that we're failing to do this on so many levels, and that there are like many cracks in the current system that allows for immigrants, particularly undocumented immigrants, to fall through the cracks and like have unequal access to basic rights like healthcare, unemployment benefits, housing, I think due process in immigration court. There's so many ways that the current system, I would say, inherently puts immigrants in a vulnerable position. So I think I would argue that like the current system in practice creates kind of like a functioning system of second-class citizenship for immigrants, particularly undocumented immigrants. And this sort of legislation that says that in Washington state that it's illegal to discriminate based on someone's immigration status is something like we needed yesterday and the day before. It's really important that we have it, and it took a lot of work to get us here. And so that does not go unnoticed. And that's really important. This work is super important. But I guess I just want to leave off in that saying that this is just the beginning. We need a lot more work to be done to make up for those other areas where immigrants are falling through the cracks, and to really live up to this ideal of everyone in the territory of the United States has equal protection under the law, because I would definitely argue that that is far from true today, specifically for immigrants and undocumented immigrants. So there's much work to be done, and this is a great start, but just know that this is the start and we need to keep doing this work. That's what I say.
Beautiful, Angelique, thanks. I really agree with what both of you said, and I want to add a couple thoughts and also make a couple plugs, and then I'll come back to you for any final thoughts. Yeah, we know at Care Washington we've started an immigrant justice project, and through that work and just through working with community members, like, we know that immigration is already like a really difficult, convoluted process for many people. It's already like a lot of stress, and knowing that you have protections under the law, I think can just like reduce a tiny bit of that stress and like allow people to be able to like act a bit more confidently. Like, when you know your rights, you can take actions without as much fear of discrimination or being treated differently. And I think that's like a really important piece of this law. So that was one thought, for just to add to like everything you already said about how important this is, and just call out in a positive way our immigrant justice project. And then I wanted to say we will continue this campaign to talk about this law that is almost 3 years old, but is still pretty new in Washington state, and making sure that everyone knows that immigration status is a protected class, that you can't be discriminated against because of your status in anywhere in the immigration process. So keep an eye out for that on social media. And if you are watching this in February of 2023 or March, please register for MDAC, Muslim Day at the Capitol. As Angelique said earlier, that is March 1st is the virtual part, which is meetings with your lawmakers. So you register, and then we at Care Washington, we connect you directly with the people who represent your districts. And the second part, the day of action on March 20th, is going to be an in-person trip to the Capitol with a demonstration and lunch and community building. So 2 parts, 2 different experiences. You can attend both or one or the other. And then the last bit of our work that I want to plug in this video is we at Care Washington have a website that is Know Your Rights WA, as in Washington. So it's knowyourrightswa.com. And it has a lot of really good basic Know Your Rights information on it. And that website, the full website, is available in Dari and Pashto as well. Yeah, so I just want to plug that in case you were curious by this conversation and want to know more about your rights. So to wrap up, thank you both so much for joining me for this conversation, the first in our campaign about this immigration status as a protected class. Thanks for your work on this campaign. And I just want to close out with, if either of you have any final thoughts, maybe we'll start with Angelique and then end with Rayyan.
I think final thoughts. Final thoughts is I hope to see you at MDOC. And yeah, I guess that this is a great first step, immigration as a connected class. But again, that's just the beginning, and it's important that we just keep on doing this work. So, yeah, thank you.
Just that we've been working really hard on this campaign, and we've been doing some pretty good work. So thank you for listening to us, and definitely check out the website and register for MDAC.